Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, and it's Teri Hunter here on Lada's channel with your weekly Angels in Astrology. All right. Gonna look and see if anybody shows up. We should be good. Anybody out there in the world? Oh, I see a couple people join. Say hello, everybody. Let me know you're there. I see a couple people have joined the room. Kind of want to give it a minute before we start. Oh, I see a like. Okay. I don't see anything in the chat right now. Tomorrow we have a Pisces full moon. The last watery moon of the year 2021. And we are about to enter some interesting waters. No pun intended. I don't see anyone in the chat. Kind of looking for a little bit of hello. Okay. Well, I'll just soldier on here. Okay, there's a couple of things I want to talk about with this full moon in Pisces. Oh, there we go. Hi. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, now I feel much better. I know you're all out there. Good morning, Reflections in Real Time. Tony Martell posted up. Thank you for joining me today. So I think this is a very interesting time. Hi, Susie. Hi, Inga. Oh, now I feel so much better. So much better. It's always weird for me when I start talking to nothing in the video. Okay, so I want to talk about this last full moon of 2021 in Pisces, which is bringing a culmination from the new moon in Pisces in March. And this particular full moon is conjunct Neptune. Like literally, it's going to just float over Neptune during the course of the day. And I think this is going to bring up a lot of stuff. I think it's going to make especially people like ourselves that are very aware and conscious, at least trying to be as we walk and traverse through the dynamics of this world right now. I think it could make us very emotional. Could make us want to go into some sort of fantasy land or just sort of escape from the world at large. We know Pisces rules the 12th house of reflection, the house of ashrams, of temples, of prisons, and of hospitals. So during this time, I think it's super important because we're also going, tried to look for the actual dates of the storm periods for Saturn and Pluto as they start to move forward, because they are retrograde still. And in October 6th, Pluto will go forward. October 10th, Saturn will move forward. And October 18th, Mercury and Jupiter will be moving forward. All of this puts us in the storm period, okay? And this storm period and the things that are happening around the world, the theme of 2021 is the Saturn-Uranus square. So this moon may make us very emotional, may make us feel a little bit bleak about what's going on in the world, but I want to offer this because the human doesn't naturally move until there's a certain amount of discomfort. And that discomfort isn't meant to make you sad, but rather sort of excited, because I want to offer it this way. Pluto will be squaring Mercury and Libra Pluto will be squaring Mercury and Libra. And so as Pluto is slowing down and making this square, it's really going to reflect, what are you thinking? What are you reading? What are you saturating yourself? What are the people in your neighborhood? Are you aligned to a dynamic that is serving your evolution? And this is where I want to put for this tribe in particular, not just the evolution that you seek, but the evolution you have already implemented. Taking this sort of time to reflect and see where you've grown and celebrate that. And I want to offer you this as a tribe. No longer to seek out healing from a wound, but rather the balance that the wound has to offer you. Because I really am starting to get bunched up about so many people talking about looking at a wound and having the wound rise in order to heal it. The wound is serving a purpose. And I don't think it's supposed to rise in like a tidal wave to hit us, but rather reflect our own choices. And are they authentic to our heart, or are they authentic to the Saturnian rule? Because the other thing I want to talk about is Venus being in Scorpio. And Venus being in Scorpio, to me, feels like some sort of transformation in my money and self-worth. Scorpio naturally rules other people's money. And we can talk about taxes, we could talk about inheritances. But in this regard, I think Pluto is asking us to dig deeper into our own transformation, our own self-worth, our own choices, and not necessarily judging those choices harshly, but looking at them as to what the dynamics were at the time that you made them. That's kind of what I want to say. Thank you, everybody, by the way, for mentioning my hair today. I did get a cut. As you can see, we must have cut off about this much. It was time to allow the curls to shine again. And I want to offer this because during this full moon with this Neptune conjunction, I personally have had a lot of dead people coming through in my readings. The connection to the other side feels very thin to me right now. The 12th house naturally rules ancestors, and that includes ancestors on the other side. So if you're dreaming a lot and feeling kind of out of this world, a little bit like, tuck back in. And this is where I'm going with this. I think that rather than necessarily going into, let's say, meditation as Neptune might reflect, I think this is going into dance and music and allowing yourself to sort of take whatever emotions you're feeling and channel them into some sort of dance. If you're angry, then, put on a Alanis Morissette or something that makes you feel that, that anthem inside of you, and dance it out. That way you can feel a sense of taking action. Sometimes in meditation, I feel like we're trying so hard to receive information that it sort of messes with the mind and makes us feel inferior or less than, or I don't know, stuck. And I think with this Pluto squaring Mercury, this is another opportunity with Mercury being in Libra to be gentle with myself, to be in a more harmonious, peaceful energy as I realize I've offered myself and my soul this opportunity to transform, and really getting into those deeper levels of what that transformation looks like, because transformation doesn't happen without some sort of disruption. So this full moon, as it comes into a culmination of a 6-month cycle that again started, when we think about March represents the last month of winter before we go into the Aries season of spring. And here we are going into, this is the harvest moon as well, because we go into the fall equinox on the 22nd here in the Pacific. So it's about harvesting the energies of this last 6 months. It's really not about judging where you need to be, but celebrating the journey you've taken. And if you have seen yourself, or if you've been judgy on yourself about, I need to get here and I need to get there and I need to make more things happen for myself, I think this is a time to take that off the table and start to say, wow, look at the platform with which I started on. Look at how much murk and muck I've had to walk through. I think I've told you guys that Pluto, while it doesn't necessarily rule anything significant in my chart, my natal chart, what I realize, and I don't hear a lot of astrologers talk about this, is that my natal chart has Pluto in such a way that it is literally in transit throughout my whole life, become conjunct with almost every single one of my planets, except the moon. And so somewhere my soul has agreed to be in this transformational energy, to really dig deep and rip away anything that doesn't serve my highest version of who and what my soul wants to express. So this is where I'm going with all of this, is that as we take the idea of the Pluto squaring Mercury in at the same time, I mean, obviously that's going to take a few days to transform, but as the moon may make you emotional about this, it may make you feel a little bit down, like in the sense of defeated. The world's so spooky right now. The world feels very oppressive right now. And part of that oppression has a wisdom attached to it. It's what will, encourage us to seek out our deeper truth. So my suggestion, and what Spirit has done for me, is said, dance this out, listen to some music, go into the nostalgia of what you enjoy. I kind of like Disney songs sometimes, or musicals, like the theme, the soundtrack to Wicked, Defying Gravity, and so many of the ideas of there's something deeper inside of what everybody else sees. So that's what I wanted to kind of bring up. We're going into some very, the United States is going to have its Pluto return coming up. And we're teeing all this stuff up right now for that transformation. So again, I'm not here to scare you, but I'm here to applaud you and to congratulate you on all the work that you've done. And now it's time to acknowledge that work and start to look at it less as having to, row so hard to get to where you want to go, as knowing that there's a part of it where the ocean will take you where you need to go. So that's what I'm going to say, and now I'm going to go on to the readings. Thank you, everybody, for commenting on my hair. I got a new hairdresser, and I was so lucky to have her come to my home, and I just told her to have her way with me. I didn't care how short she made it, and I just decided to embrace the curls. So that's where we're at. All right, let's start with our Pisces and work our way towards our Aries. And I want to offer this too, guys, because I just saw Susie saying scary times. Humanity is riddled with scary times, to be frank. I don't want to diminish the times that we're living in right now and how oppressive they feel. But I also think that this is sort of this continuation of the I don't want to even say the restoration of America, because I feel like this is a global, but I'm going to focus in on the country I live in, because I've been really into history lately. I've talked about this a lot on the broadcast because I studied the past life charts, and I'm focusing on that a little bit in my astrology work. And I just watched this series on PBS called The Restoration of America. And I feel like we are taking that to the next level now. As the Pluto return comes, Pluto's in Aquarius for the United States. So this is ruled by Saturn and Uranus, this big theme we've been seeing going on all year. So we've been going through this 10th square because the 10th square is taking us into this conjunction. And the conjunction is not about this death of blood, guts, and gore. It's about the caterpillar that has to in some way die in order to be the butterfly. So if we think about the United States and the duplicity in some ways with which it was created, we have people fighting for freedom while they're enslaving other people of a different color. So now this is about the unity of everything. And in some ways connecting where there has been imbalance and bringing more balance. And what we also know about Neptune, guys, is that Neptune rules conspiracy, deception, fantasy, illusion. And so this moon may make people in this tribe feel on an intuitive level that there's more to be revealed about the dynamics going on in the world and how we're being controlled by certain certain input that's coming to us, Pluto square Mercury. Give yourself just a little bit of space between what you're listening to and what you're feeling in here, okay? Because I think it's really important to trust our being vibration, our beliefs about things. And I want to wish Welsh Roses a happy birthday. On last Friday was her birthday, so she was enjoying that trine between Pluto and the Sun, which can be very powerful in a really good way. Because we got to remember, Pluto also creates billionaires. Pluto represents wealth. So when we consider the transformations that the planets have to offer us, how many times do you default to the more challenging dynamic, or do you go to the higher vibrational dynamic? Because that's what I'm saying. Take an inventory of your own evolution is about stepping into those higher vibrations. Because as a tribe, we're here to allow ourselves the ebb and the flow into it, because we are humans. All right, Pisces, here we go. Let's start with you and your full moon. What in the last 6 months have you discovered about yourself through your own personal insights? And where is it that you want to, in some ways, be willing to be brave enough to look at what illusions have held you in a holding pattern that no longer serves you? So there we're going. Okay. Oops. All right, Pisces, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And those of you, most of you look like you're fairly familiar with me. I say moon because, again, the emotional body is how I believe we truly create. The sun is what we reflect out into the world, and the moon is what we feel on the interior. When you think about a full moon, it's an opposition between the way we feel on the inside and what we're projecting out into the world. And there's a spotlight on it because the sun is reflecting back into the moon, which is why it's so bright. All right, Pisces, here we go. Whoop. All right, so our first angel is Crystal and the second is Astera as they flip out of the deck. Then we have in the angel's advice, Ray. And in the final position, we have Francesca. Okay. Now a little bit of the shadow side of Pisces is wanting to swim away. Oh, it's getting tense in here. I think I'm just going to go swim over to the next pond. And I feel like this is really about allowing, in some ways, Pisces not to swim away, but to see how the ocean will remove that cold spot if you let it. Because that's where I think Crystal's saying have faith and hope. And this is, while I don't in my mind's eye have all the different signs, what house this is in, because my brain is still coagulating all of that, we know this is going to be in the first house for Pisces. So this is really about yourself and what you're feeling on the inside versus what you're projecting out to the outside, and are they in alignment? So Crystal is saying have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon. And then we have the stag. We have Astera and the dog. We have Ray and the owl, and Francesca and the goblin. Okay, so at first I thought that this was potentially about love because of the dog, but I think this is more about really allowing your ruling planet Neptune to work its magic versus taking you under. And because that wanting to see the best in things, not wanting to really look, having the Neptunian water, if you think this is double water, and it's the last water moon of the year. So this is about actually not being too prideful, Pisces, in what you have known about a situation. And sometimes a situation may start off in a favorable way, and then maybe it's disintegrated. And there's a part of you that's hanging on to what you initially had experienced in it, wanting it to come back around. And that's the illusion, that was the dance of the new versus the savoriness of a seasoned relationship or a seasoned situation. Because Crystal is asking you to have faith and hope that there's more on the horizon. And I was listening to Brian Coulter. He did he's my mentor, and he did a full moon video, and he entitled it about Gandhi. And I thought how funny that is, because most of us only think about the favorable dynamics of Gandhi. Oh, he was a great leader. He's so peaceful and harmonious. And how many decades did the man spend in prison? He's Libra, 12th house Libra. So I kind of want to say this is really a time to not be stubborn in what you look at, but to see the wisdom. If he hadn't spent all that time in solitude, would he have been the Gandhi that he became? Because in that dynamic, he had choices. He had the choice to transcend the situation through 12th house activities, or to be succumbed by it. Because I think that Pisces, this is about time to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and to be loyal to them, to focus in on them. There's a little something about, Pisces for me that always sort of feels like it's very cooperative, to the point where sometimes you can lose yourself in the situation. And this is about differentiating, and not in a way that separates yourself, but that gives life to individual expression. Neptune also rules, television and the arts in some ways, the creation of fantasy. And we all enjoy that. So it's intertwined, because I think this is about connecting to spirit and seeing the wisdom of the duality of things. And you are mutable. You are mutable. You are the signs of these two fish, kind of yin and yang. So, because I think in some respects, if you've been in an imbalanced situation, you've been prideful, staying there, chasing kind of an old version that hasn't shown up in a while, it's time to stop edging God out and to start to visualize on what it is you really want. This is where I think we're digging into deeper levels, and why I brought up the Pluto squaring Mercury this week. Because if we're willing to be really authentic, and I don't even want to say that we're not trying to be authentic, but it takes a little bit of spit and polish to dig deeper into our motivations. I've done so often. I have purchased things or gone into situations where I thought I wanted it. And when I looked at it deeper, I realized what I wanted was the approval of others while I did that endeavor. And that's what I think this is about for Pisces. So go back 6 months. What was going on in March, and what energies were you engaging in that maybe now allow a little bit of lifting the Neptunian illusion from, and start to step into a more authentic. I can't help but always go to that Pluto has a 600-mile ice heart. Okay, it's literally ice on the planet, and it looks white from space. And maybe we have to be a little cold-hearted sometimes in what we want for ourselves in order to actually be of service to others. I hope that makes sense. Let's go on to our Aquariuses. I want to thank everybody who's commenting on my hair. I'm very excited to be sporting my new do. It's actually starting to look a little flat right now, really. My hair grows bigger and bigger as it dries. You wouldn't believe that I actually spent like 20 minutes drying it and it's still wet. Okay, here we go. On to our Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And I want to offer this idea because we all have a lot going on, but the idea that Saturn's starting to slow down its roll as it goes into its coming out of its retrograde period. Again, that's going to be on the 10th of October. So we're at the end of September. So I really think we're starting to feel these energies. And the slowdown is this, because I really want to rewrite Saturn. Okay, I know it can be depressing and I know it can be repressive, but I really believe that Saturn's saying, hey, are you doing what you love? Because why would Uranus, the planet of individuality, of revolution and renovation and innovation, and the ruler of the ancient rules and regulations, co-rule one side? Because there's a cooperation between them. Again, looking for this renovation versus a demolition. And when you look at what have I been doing inadvertently, that I've been playing to somebody else's game. And maybe I don't think I've been doing that. Even in your revolution or even in your rebellion of another, are you somehow engaging in something that's a little distracting? That water, that moon. I'm going to Aquarius with this. All right, here we go. Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, our first angel is Serena, the angel of abundance. The second is Caressa. The third is Yvonne. And the final, is Crystal. Thank you, Small. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, here we go. Serena, Aquarius is being joined by the goblin. Caressa is being joined by the frog. Yvonne is being joined by the cow. And Crystal is being joined by the forgiveness card. So I want to offer this because, we've been talking about this Saturn-Uranus square, and it really represents archetypes, not just, archetypes of human beings right now and the way they're thinking, the old versus the new, the old in every genre of our lives, from the old politics to the old way of addressing our bodies to the old way of viewpoints of things. Because what I'm getting for Aquarius is that there is a little bit of, Aquarius rules sort of the unexpected explosions, things that come out of nowhere. And Serena, while she may represent money, I think she represents the dynamic of serenity right now. And that in some respects, because by nature, Aquarius can see beyond the mundane. It's a visionary by nature. So this could be a little bit where you're edging God out, because right now, I think we're going to start to see a bigger pinch in things. We're going to see more of the bodies that govern ask us to do things not because they are tried and true, but rather because they are, I don't even know the words I want to use. I just see this big herd of animals being led in some ways towards almost like a cattle drive. And the cow is here. I feel like Aquarius has their most power in being a little bit more serene, a more observatory energy. Observe what's going on around you, because in the final position, and then I'll go back through the other two positions, Crystal's saying, have faith and hope there's more on the horizon that you can't see. And here's the forgiveness card. I don't think this is about forgiveness in its traditional sense, but more an understanding that as you didn't get too fired up about your truth and try to assert that truth in the world, but rather stand in serenity into that truth, you will have more influence and you will understand more succinctly and more to the core of who you are, why it was best to sit back. So oftentimes when we try to convince somebody of something, they resist it. So it is through their own experience and their own revelation that they start to anchor it in. And if we've been too contrary to them or too much assertion, then they are reluctant to even take on that energy if it benefits them. So Aquarius, while you rule revolution, I think it's a time to sort of not be too electric, not be too rebellious, but rather realize that sometimes no action is action. That not stepping up and necessarily engaging in a physical situation has as much of a rebellious and effective energy as engaging. Because Caressa is saying, now as we're at the end of a life cycle, that new happiness awaits us. And there's the frog. This is about the cleaning of the house. And the cleaning of the house is actually the mind. And now we have a Pluto-Mercury square featured this week. So we have Pluto representing death and rebirth, the god of hell, going into Libra, asking us to be harmonious and peaceful as we chip away at the old thoughts that no longer serve us, and be vulnerable. This is the angel's advice to our own nourishment. Right now, it may feel very much like the universe. We've got some transits going on. We've got Uranus in Taurus. We know there could be the potential of some things going on in our food supply. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and we're already experiencing a berry shortage due to some weather in Peru or something like that. So I bring this up because there's a lot of things going on that can stoke this feeling of having to take charge right now and burst out and innovate or revolt. So I feel like this is about being serene. And then when the moment comes to step in to take action, it'll be more guided. And I want to offer this to you again. I want to kind of repeat this idea that if you feel frustrated this week, if this full moon makes you feel very emotional, then I want to offer the idea, please give yourself an opportunity to dance it out. Turn off the lights in your house, put on your headphones if you don't want other people to hear your music and you want to lose yourself in it, because I think that'll help get rid of that physical anxiety. And, Aquarius rules anxiety. Okay, here we go. On to our Capricorns, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, here we go. CJD, reprimanding yourself it's not self-care. So the acknowledgement that you have been taking care of others more than yourself is great, but getting up your own grill about it is not. So now you give yourself permission to detox. Okay, here we go. Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And if in case anyone wants to take note of the timestamps, Juan is still on his Juan time, meaning he's taking some time for himself. As far as I know, I haven't spoken to him. So it would really help because I do have things this afternoon. So here we go. Oh, thank you, Holly. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. I'm going to get some highlights next. So we'll start to see the color freshen up a little bit. I'm excited about that. Okay, here we go. Oh, thank you, JUWC. Thank you so much. All right, here we go. Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Desiree. The second is Archangel Raphael. The third is Ray. And the final is Athena. So we know that, these transits are so personal to me. So Pluto's been at 24 degrees Capricorn forever. Thank you very much. That directly squares my sun and is in 2 degrees of squaring my ascendant. So at first, again, I was very scared about these whole things. But as I started to really look deeper, and I want to say this for Capricorn, because you kind of appreciate things that seem logical. And if you look at the planets transiting and you think about them like weather, like the same thing as clouds and rain, and you see what you've been going through, then this is very logical for Capricorn to start to step into an energy that serves you, which is more the baby goat versus the stoic old goat. And I say that because it's time to really reflect a little bit more on, here we go, Pluto transiting Capricorn. So it's affecting everything in Capricorn, especially the late degree Capricorns. Pardon me, squaring Mercury and Libra. What am I thinking about? What am I writing about? What am I speaking about? What am I saturating myself with on TV? What am I listening to in the car on the way to work? Because in some respects, this could be a time to truly take that Plutonian energy and rewrite it. It's almost as if you're saying to yourself, I'm not going to ignore the old rules, but I'm going to ask myself, Capricorn, if they still serve me. Because Desiree is saying conditions are not favorable right now to wait. And what I want to say is, I think conditions are not favorable on taking action on what you have been evolving into. Capricorn has had some, for years now, as we saw all in 2020, Jupiter transiting it. We had Mars going through there, zippity doodah. There's really been an opportunity, and I say that because it's probably felt more like an obstacle, to examine how you do think, Capricorn, and where you've limited yourself, not by choice, but by habit. Because now Archangel Raphael offers Capricorn an opportunity to reconcile the situation. I really have come to love the word healing, because I really don't think we're broken. I think we are here to recognize, acknowledge, and be aware of what contrast does. So when I'm walking through an experience I hate or I don't like or feels oppressive, do I stay in it? Or do I allow myself the privilege of my own individualization through it? Because Capricorn, it's time to start focusing in on what you love. It's time to have fun. It's time to be the baby goat. It's time, if you work 5 days a week and then Saturday is all about cleaning your house and then you just want to sleep on Sunday, maybe it's like let the house be dirty for once. Yes, if you like a clean house, great. But I mean, it's about changing it up and giving yourself permission for more ease. Because here's the death card. And this is Ray. It talks about yoga and exercise on the face of the card. But I think this is more about truly transforming. This could be like Pluto, right? And then allowing yourself this opportunity to really connect with your deeper sense of self. And in doing so, I almost want to say it this way. As you connect with the deeper truth of who you are, which is what your wants and desires versus your stoic needs and the things you are doing because you were taught to do it, because you're expected to do it, because you're a good child and you do it. As you lay off those, and not in an angry way, but in a more relaxed way, I think the universe will stretch time for you. It will bring in solutions you otherwise would not have seen. It would bring in maybe even someone who, like, let's say that you go to your mom's every Saturday and you clean her bathroom. If you say in your mind, oh, maybe this week I'm not going to do that. Maybe this week I'm going to give myself a break. I want to go do something fun. And then your mom accidentally calls you and goes, you know what? I found a maid. She's going to come clean the bathroom. I feel like solutions will present themselves to things that you're obliging yourself to. And if you don't back off enough to let that universe bring them in, you'll continue to perpetrate behaviors that will be depleting. So as you look at the idea that, okay, I'm still identifying some of those things. Then as you do start to assert yourself, because that's what Athena talks about, Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, you start to see the wisdom of the road that you took. You see the wisdom of where the challenges have been. As I've done, my spiritual growth, my study and my teaching, because I do think of myself as a teacher more than anything else, I realized that if I didn't ever experience darkness, I never would truly feel the exhilaration of what I've accomplished and the pride. So when I start to view my experiences through that lens, I'm less resistant to these challenging times. I'm less resistant to the idea that, oh my God, the shit's hitting the fan, pardon my language. And instead looking for the wisdom of why it might be doing that and what has to be offered as a result of it. So Capricorn, I think this is about giving yourself, look, your planet, your ruling planet, Saturn, is about to go direct. So what have you done since I think it was May when it went retrograde? This is the final opportunity for you to really look at what structures serve you and what you're willing to transform, in the sense of, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't like it. I never liked it. And I don't know how I got stuck in it, but now I'm going to liberate myself from it. And doing so, you may be liberating a lot more other dynamics than you realize. All right. Full moon, right? The releasing of something. And some unconscious people may be very feeling like getting buzzed this week, May just be like, oh my God, the more they listen to the news, they'll be like, oh, I need another drink. Okay, here we go. Did I drop a card? Nope, I'm good. All right. Sammer 005. I'm every Sunday. It would be 2 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm live here with the crowd, with the tribe. All right, here we go. We are on to our Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, our first angel is Crystal. That's 3 for 3, 4 for 4. I think crystals come up every time. There's Chantal in the opportunity of the obstacle. There's Maya in the angel's advice. And then there's Archangel Uriel. I really feel in some ways, a responsibility to seek the wisdom of these challenging times, of the input that's coming towards me, and of how important it is for me to decipher that information, not from my brain, but from my gut, because my gut is going to tell me stuff that my brain might not. My brain might tell me to doubt myself. Okay, Crystal's being joined by the Raven. Chantal is being joined by the Queen. Maya's being joined by the High Priestess. And Merlin is joining Archangel Uriel. All right, Sagittarius. It's interesting to me because I want to kind of take a little bit of a left turn here with Sagittarius in the respect of this feels very much like Sagittarius, rules the connection to the angelic realm. It rules these high concepts of who am I, what am I, why am I here, what's the point? And when I look at this, I almost feel like Sagittarius is in an energy right now where they really just want to see more balance out there in the world. And when Crystal says have faith and hope, there's more on the horizon, I think it's important to really focus in on what the Raven represents in Native American cultures, that it goes down into the underworld, into the darkness, and there that darkness is transformed. And it is not because we become desensitized to it, but rather we become aware of the ebb and the flow of why there are challenging situations, why, when we look at the dynamics right now, we can see there are powerful people and then there are very disempowered people, and this is creating a duality. And so I believe for my Sagittariuses, there's an opportunity for you to have faith and trust the duality, trust that it's going to bring something more. I kind of look at it this way, if indeed the United States or original colonists had not been so pinched by taxes, they would not have revolted and created their own country. If indeed during the Civil War we hadn't seen the terrible oppression that one race was perpetrating on another, we would not have even the bits of equality that we have now, that we're going to the deeper levels of transformation, okay? Because what I believe when I look at Chantal is I don't think this is about personal love. I think this is about communal love. And the Queen to me is bringing in balance. And this is what I feel like Sagittarius wants to represent. Can't we all kind of get along? Can't we sort of give life to the idea that our diversity brings in concepts and ideas that we may not consider in our own narrow viewpoint? And I say that because in the angel's advice, we have so much to learn about allowing ourselves to go to those deeper realms of thought, this is what I want to say. Sometimes when we see somebody who's materially successful and they say, oh, I just had a hunch. We're like, oh, I want to have a hunch like that. But then we look at somebody who maybe not appear to be as materially successful, and they'll say, I have a hunch, and it's voodoo or it's weird. And I'm saying all this because I think that this is now about how Sagittarius is learning to adapt to the higher realms of their own energy and trust that deeper intuition is actually more valid than anything you might learn in a high-level university. And I don't want to take away from university experiences, but it's the commingling of everything. It's not one thing or another, because this is where I'm going. Archangel Uriel represents frustration, anger, unforgiveness, and Merlin represents the transformation of that. So now we go back to the raven going into the underworld, going into the darkest parts in order to come back and create magic. So I think for Sagittarius and having Neptune be crossing the moon, meaning, the moon crossing Neptune during this full moon, I think it's an illumination on a spiritual level for Sagittarius to be able to see that every time there is darkness, this is an invitation for light. That in some ways, the exposure of the imbalance, aka the wound, is an opportunity to make a choice. And in the choice for balance, aka healing, you have an opportunity to feel your own power. And thereby your frustration subsides. I hope that made sense. Let's go on to our Scorpios. Excuse me. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. That's absolutely right, Lucy Rose. Our gut is our second brain. The challenge is that most people will go, well, how do you know that? And when you say, I don't know, I just know, they're like, oh, you're an idiot. But that's not true. It's the doubting of the second brain that actually screws us up. And if you do a little experiment, you'll learn to trust it. I have this little thing. I don't know if any of my tribe right now is going to school, but I have this thing that I do with people who come to see me, and they're in an educational process. When they take a test, I tell them to use 2 pens. One for the answers that they know, like the back of their hand, and then the second one is the ones they're guessing at. And the point is to see how many times when you guess, you're right. And I tell them, just do your first gut instinct and check the box. And this is to help you see how often, what the percentage is for you to trust your gut. And it makes you stronger in your test taking abilities. So if any of you are in school, I suggest you implement that when you're taking tests, and that way you learn to trust your intuition. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Eddie Dude, 3 planets is what they would call a loose stellium. So I would look at what the planets are, because if they're outer planets in Capricorn or in Scorpio, then that's going to be referring to maybe more of a collective of your generation, because they're slow moving. If they're personal planets that move quickly, Mercury, Mars, Venus, I would go towards that. And I'd kind of look at what planets they are. I hope that helps. Thank you, Mustard. Okay, here we go. Scorpio. Ray just flew out of the deck, so we'll take her. Bridget is in the opportunity or the obstacle. Patience is in the angel's advice. And Fiona is in the final position. Fire Fairy flew out of the deck for our Scorpios. She joins Ray. Bridget is being joined by the Focus card. Patience is being joined by the Love card. And Fiona is being joined by the Queen. Okay, so we can go crazy over Pluto, death. Oh my God. Truth is there's no real death. I don't believe in it. As I age, you can ask me how confident I am when the time comes to cross over. I don't really care. I just don't want it to be painful. But my point is this: Scorpio rules death and rebirth. And I feel like it's a little bit of time for Scorpio to own that in a way that they're more confident about it, in the sense of I am constantly willing to transform myself, because that's what I represent. I represent the more savory, deep, passionate connections That's what Scorpio represents. So often Scorpio is just the stinger. It is not true. What happens is that stinger comes out when Scorpio is insulted by somebody trying to give them information that is too shallow, that would be superficial and then just sailing off. They're like, excuse me. So now I want to go back to the idea of what Pluto has, this heart in the middle of it. Okay. It's a 600-mile heart. It is ice cold. And sometimes Pluto represents having to be a little bit cold hearted in order to move your story forward. Now we can go to the darker sides of Pluto, control, power. But I think that Pluto transformed is what we are to be focusing in on as a tribe. So Scorpio, it's time for you specifically to look at where you and start to celebrate where you've been transforming, where your power from your inner knowing really comes from. Mars in ancient times ruled Scorpio. And there's a little bit of feeling of this Mars energy attached to this for me, where I get this feeling of like, I want to sort of cut through the murk and the muck of the BS. And the only way I'm really going to do that is to really be optimistic and trust the deeper parts of my connection to spirit, because in the opportunity and or the obstacle is Bridget telling you to look deeper. And then there's the focus card. And the focus card is really, when you look deeper, is to ask the second question. When I was younger, before I knew I was an intuitive, I used to sometimes, I had a lot of friends die when I was like in my late teens, early 20s. And I used to ask myself this question: what do I feel at a deeper level? And that was really a place of solace for me. And I want to offer that to Scorpio, because I think the idea of representing such a transformational dynamic in the human experience can tend to pull you down towards the darker elements of it. And I think now is an opportunity to open that up, because here we have the patience card, which is about learning and studying, and this is about love. And sometimes love is interruptive. The caterpillar, while it serves a beautiful purpose on the planet, has no idea the kind of love that people will experience as it transforms into the butterfly. Almost every human on earth, when a butterfly goes by, they're like, ooh, ooh, get very excited. But yet this is an arduous, crazy, painful transformation. So this is where I'm going. Full moon in Pisces, the sign of spirituality, the sign of there's a big cooperation between the 8th house and the 12th house, both representing death in some way. And now I think it's time to transform that. And I think it's an opportunity to shed a big light on the idea of how Scorpio does that. Because part of it is sitting back and letting spirit come in. This is two energies of reception. Two energies of owning something in a very calm, cool, and collected way, and allowing spirit to bring forth that dynamic. So let me kind of be a little bit more succinct. For Scorpio, the focus is on whatever brings you love. So if you're a Scorpio and you're looking for a relationship, then your opportunity is to really think about the dynamics of how that relationship feels when it's in balance. Pluto squaring Mercury this week, and maybe a little bit into next week, or I don't know exactly the period of time, but Mercury's going to move into Scorpio soon enough. So while this is happening, it's an opportunity for Scorpio to look into how they're thinking. Are you engaged in your old story over and over again? I only date losers. I only, experience poverty. I only experience rejection from my family. How much are you in the loop? Are you in the loop? And is the loop an opportunity for you to say no more loop? If I'm in a loop in this place and I feel this way, maybe I step out of this place for just a minute and see what happens. And when I say see what happens, it's what does spirit have to bring me that offers such an opportunity for me to feel more seen and appreciated back in my planet, in my house, in my home, in my heart. That's where I'm going. Paradoxal debacle, 8th house. I don't know what sign that is, but again, this is, I believe it's a sign of of somebody who, when you have 8th house activity like that, trusting your gut, and not in a way, a defensive way, but more in a way where spirit, it's like a detective. You trust your gut, and then you let the universe start to support that and give you confirmation. So you get stronger and stronger about that, because the stronger you get, the more the herd will tell you that your gut doesn't know what it's talking about. All right, let's go on to Libra. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And yes, Scorpio's fixed. Of course, I didn't even think of that, Lucy Rose. Thank you for bringing that up to me. I mean, I know that, but there's so many layers to all of this. I love the detectives of the zodiac. I have Neptune and Mercury in Scorpio, 8th house. When I was a little girl, I loved watching detective shows, and I loved always knowing the answer. And I was always the spoiler person. People hated watching TV with me. Like, don't tell me. I'll bet you it's this. That was stupid. All right, here we go. Libra, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. It's almost your birthday time. And I hope you'll all join me. My birthday is on a Sunday this year. So on October 17th, a little over a month, I'll be here on my birthday. I hope you'll all join me. I might wear a crown or something. We'll see. All right, here we go. Libra, our first angel is Oceana. The second is Shanti. The third is Bethany. And the final is Mystique. Oh, Lydia, happy birthday to you. That's also the day before Jupiter goes direct and Mercury goes direct. And I think actually in the United States, it might be on the 17th. So it's going to be a very interesting birthday, I think. The planet of abundance, the planet of wealth, the planet of spiritual beliefs going direct. I like it. Oceana's being joined by the cat. Shanti's being joined by the wrist guard. Bethany's being joined by the dog. And Mystique is being joined by the mystery card. You know, being an Aries rising, which I think most of you know by now, and a Taurus moon, I'm not afflicted by the Libra indecision. I'm not afflicted by the Libra sense of cooperation, just the opposite. I could probably use a little more Libra in me sometimes. But my point is this, is Oceana represents lovingly asserting yourself towards what you want. And this is a full moon. And here's independence and healthy boundaries. And I feel like that Libra sometimes, to their own detriment, will be overly compromising in some sort of hope and wish that the other person will acknowledge it and then reciprocate it. And, oftentimes that doesn't happen. The human oftentimes perpetrates behaviors hoping that will be reciprocated. And I feel like in order for Libra to feel peace, you're going to have to risk a different idea. And that different idea is going to be loyalty to yourself. Bethany represents self-care, and there's love. So this is self-love. So let me give you guys a scenario for me, or in my life. And this is what I'm talking about. I don't have a very strong ties with my DNA family. And there are certain events coming up, and I was starting to be pulled back into these, what I consider to be stormy waters, dangerous waters for me, because the family is so opposite of me that it's full of criticism and a lot of judgment. And that makes me behave very Neptunian, okay? Because I start to want to mask in those situations. And I don't realize I'm doing it at the time because I feel a tidal wave of energy that the other people will not acknowledge. If you can't touch it, it isn't real. Unless, of course, it's God. Because I'm saying this, I believe that Libra has to sort of emotionally individualize. Libra has to sort of say, I don't really care if you agree with what I'm feeling right now. I feel what I feel. I do what I do. And in order for Libra to truly feel peace, you're going to have to risk not having other people agree with you. It's time to be loyal to yourself and to what you feel is important. Now, we may find, that there are people that love us that are, we're having, as a result of the pandemic and all of the interventions and the remedies that have come, some people are falling on opposite sides of the fence. Do I take the remedy or don't I take it? I don't know about the remedy. I think you should take the remedy. This is where I'm going with this. I don't think it's about fighting with other people if you feel the opposite of them. If you feel like this doesn't feel right for me, you're going to have to be authentic to yourself and trust that inner knowing, because it's time for Libra to start to really expect miraculous solutions through their choice. So this is how I want to put it. I think this is my most Libra dynamic, is that I don't want to assert my opinion on other people, but I'm very strong within my own opinion. So when I'm in my home, I do my readings, I purport a vibration that supports what I believe. And I have to sort of be different than other people. And so for Libra to feel totally emotionally balanced, there's a certain amount of independent thought that you get to perpetrate. You get to think about. Mercury's going through your sign right now, asking you if your thoughts are peaceful. And if for some reason you're not feeling peaceful, is it because your thoughts are feeling like you need to be cooperative for the other person's point of view? And Carrie, I want to say this for Carrie, who just said, made that comment. I believe that a lot of our being energy is influential in how we respond to the outside stimulus. So as we, have a wobble in our belief, then I think that's a deferring to a pause until we have whatever we need to stop the wobble. Because the wobble is almost like stress in some way, and stress compromises the immune system and thereby makes us more vulnerable. So the more sure we are of the actions we take, the more our immune system stands in alignment with that. And then we fuel it with things that will support that endeavor. So Libra, having a more independent point of view and still perpetrating, harmonious energies, just not allowing yourself to succumb to something that doesn't feel authentic. And in doing so, it seems like this full moon could really bring the end of a cycle of feeling unsure about that. Because as you assert yourself, maybe then you'll be supported and you didn't think you would be. So that's where I'm going with this. Let's go on to our Virgos. As we move into, a lot of astrologers that I listen to, myself included, are focusing in on the third exact square between Uranus and Saturn the day after Christmas. And as I just got chills everywhere. All of this feels like it's all about, because, I interrupted myself. I apologize. The United States having its Pluto return is not just going to affect the United States. It's going to affect the world at large. I don't know to what extent as the ripple effect goes out, but I feel like all of this is building a muscle for us as a tribe, a muscle of our connection to spirit, a muscle in our connection to our own intentions of engaging the laws of the universe, which is the law of attraction, the law of allowing, and are being able to decipher that, oftentimes in the midst of very crazy disruption, people thrive. And spiritual people have known to thrive exceptionally during times of great strife in the material world. So here we go. All right, Virgo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. It's out with the old, in with the new, and yet there's also, I believe, to be some sort of integration. Because if we throw out everything that's old, it's an invalidation of who and what we are. And so I feel like it's important to be able to see our evolution, because it can promote a sense of compassion versus a sense of condemnation. All right, here we go, Virgo. Our first angel is Rosetta. The second is Indriel. The third is Mystique. And the final is Adriana. Thank you, Carrie. All right, Lucy Rose, your Virgo stellium. Here we go. All right. Rosetta is being joined by the forgiveness card. Angel is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. Mercury is being joined by the truth. And Adriana is being joined by the high priestess. I find this, the more I study astrology, the more my own intuitions take off, the more I see the cooperation between the polarities of the houses, and the 6th house and the 12th house have a conversation and a relationship. One is all about dutiful service to another, and the other is all about sort of this introspection, going into both, I think about the retreats, the ashrams, the meditation, the imprisonment. And then we have, the 12th house ruling hospitals and Virgo ruling our health. So this is where I'm going with this. For my Virgos, I feel like on some level, with Pluto squaring Mercury during this full moon, your sign especially, even more so than Gemini, will really scrutinize where there's too much judgment and criticism. I feel like Pluto is sort of, may even go into a place that makes Virgo feel so pinched by this dynamic that it blows it out in a positive way. So if indeed for some reason Virgo is feeling that critical eye coming towards you, it isn't about saying, oh, I'm getting criticism because I've been critical. It's more about illuminating a dynamic that allows us to be more accepting and compassionate for the human experience of ups and downs, being fabulously flawed, that sometimes without a challenge, we wouldn't have the revelation that experience teaches, words don't teach. And Mercury is all about words, either in the form of hearing them, speaking them, thinking them, but it's the actual experience that roots it in. So this is where I'm going. When I look at Rosetta, while she represents teaching and children, I think this is about the inner child for Virgo, being taught about forgiveness. And I don't mean forgiveness in the traditional sense, but again, going back to the dark illuminating the light illuminating the dark, the beauty of what a challenging situation, what a flaw, what a divot, what a hole, what a pothole has to offer us. If you never fall in an emotional pothole, how will you know how to get yourself out of it? Because you're being offered a rebirth, Virgo. And I think this full moon has an opportunity to truly illuminate a more spiritual dynamic to the earthly experience of challenges, of what we're enslaved to, of what we, where we put our work, our focus. I find it so interesting that the 6th house of work and enslavement and health is right in between the house of romance and children and the house of partnership, because we bring our attitude towards our work and our health into our partnership. So this is an opportunity to really illuminate. And this is where I'm going with this. The moon is our emotions, and the sun is how we project ourselves out into the world. That's what we say, sun, moon, and rising, right? Rising being our perspective. And when we have an opposition, which is the full moon, there's an illumination because the moon is reflecting the sun's light. So there's something about how we're referring to ourselves out in the world that gets to be more true in here for Virgo. Because Mystique is saying, keep charging ahead to your truth. And as you are more gentle with yourself about being perfect or being whatever is expected of you, you're going to start to feel your divinity. You're going to start to feel the beauty of what that opposite sign, Pisces, has to offer in the way of spirituality. That the person who never experiences a problem, or the person who is constantly feeling abundant, isn't really of this earth in a way that feels real. So it is through the challenges that we can relate to somebody else and then rise above, because Virgo is being led to the highest version of themselves. So how often have you watched a movie and you don't cry because the character is in pain, but because you relate to the pain the character is experiencing? I believe that Virgo is going to have an opportunity to have Pluto revamp the way they're thinking. And this is going to be about self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, the unshackling of your duty, and the liberation to the wisdom of, I'm not just doing this for myself, but when I do this for myself, I'm actually doing it for the people and the dynamics that I have felt shackled to. Sounds painful, but beautiful at the same time. Let's go on to our Leos. All right. All right, here we go. On to our Leo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Rosetta. Then we have Archangel Raphael. Then we have Rochelle. And then we have Astera. Thank you, Lucy Rose. You're so right. Perception is always key. And I think what's happening with this Uranus-Saturn square is we're getting into dipping deeper into our perceptions. And are they our perceptions? Are they some sort of imprint that's been put on us for such a long time that we actually think they're ours? And when we get into this idea that Pluto is squaring Mercury right now, Mercury in Libra, it gives me an opportunity, Pluto in Capricorn, to rewrite the structure of the way I think. And if I'm really imprisoning myself, or if some ways by individualing, I'm not only, releasing myself from some sort of mental prison, but I'm also allowing other people to transform as well. Okay, Rosetta's being joined by the Burden card. This is for Leo. We have Archangel Raphael being joined by the Restriction card. We have Rochelle being joined by the Love card. And we have Astera being joined by the Raven. Okay, so Leo rules the 5th house of children. We know that. It rules entertainment, play, fun, hobbies. And when I look at this right now, I feel a little bit like somebody's thrown a little bit of cold water on Leo's party. And I want to offer it this way because, Leo, I've talked a lot about how Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun rules the zodiac. It's so important for us to pay attention to what our inner child wants to do in the way of fun. To be too grown up is not a good idea. It kind of really puts us into that stoic, weird Saturnian energy. And we're being liberated from that right now. So I want to offer this because when I look at this, I feel like Leo is coming under some sort of fire, is the way I want to put it. And I almost feel like there could be the potential that in your standing for what's your truth, because again, I could go to Rosetta being about other people's children, but I think it's the inner child. And the Burden card tells me that there's something about being dampened for Leo. And this full moon may be revealing something in the way that you think you were in alignment with somebody, and meaning you thought alike, we think alike, we're in the same page, and then you find out that you were not. Because this moon, Neptune conjuncting the moon, can also bring up illusions. It can bring up things that we thought were one way and they're not. And I get the Restriction card on top of Archangel Raphael. So this tells me that there's an opportunity for Leo to either choose to see that illusion and to allow it to be, meaning it is what it is, and in assessing if it works for me or not. Because I almost feel like Leo doesn't want to look at this. Leo doesn't want to have the illusion of the child broken. But I feel like it's super important for Leo to follow their heart. Rochelle says prosperity comes as you're willing to follow your heart. And this is what I want to say. Oftentimes, especially in love relationships, we blame the other person for hurting us. We say, you did this to me, you did that for me. And if we really were authentic and digging deep, we would have known we smelled something wrong. We smelled something that wasn't in alignment. And maybe we didn't want to see it. Because here I go in the final position for Leo is Astera saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. And now's the time to do that. It's time to dig deeper. So let me offer this. If you are in any Leo energy, you're trying to create your own career, meaning like I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a singer, I'm a producer of some sort of entertainment thing. And we can even go sports. And I feel like it's super important to pay attention to your inner child, even if it feels like a burden. And some of that, those darn rose-colored glasses, Lucy Rose, that's what's going to come up a little bit right now. And I think it's important for you not to fight it a little bit, not to burden yourself with it, because I feel like that's where the restriction comes in. It feels so Saturnian that the healing would be like, oh, I'm super judgy of myself. And no, you know what? Every once in a while, we got to go under illusion so that we can see the truth. And this is the time for that. And I want to offer it this way too, because I feel like while Leo gets a rap for being, too big sometimes when they come in the room, and sometimes they are, I'm not going to say they're not, but oftentimes we need them to be big. We need Leo to be big because we need to be kind of shaken out of this Saturnian dutiful energy and to realize that our passions are just as important as our duty to other people. Our passions, and that's what Pluto rules. On a very, very deep level, Pluto rules passion in the most raw way. And I believe that as we give life to that, we're literally giving life to the Aquarian age, because now we're not judging ourselves as being opposing one another for varying reasons, socioeconomic, the color of your skin, your belief system, whatever, but instead seeing how we complement each other through our diversity and how that diversity creates more opportunities to be more inventive. That's the way I want to put it. Okay. Here we go. And Leo, ruling the zodiac is no small feat. When you take astrology, you learn the sun combusts every planet it gets next to. So basically it outshines it. So when we're not coming from that place of sort of the shadow side of Leo is I need to suck all the air out of the room because I need you to validate me. But no, we stand more in that confidence of my creation is what it is. And I love it for its own expression. Then we are allowing ourselves to be the ambassadors, the kings, the leaders that say, come join me in this fun. Because this is how we make Saturn and Pluto and these more malefic planets work for us. Because when we're in the lane of where our passion is, then when we come across obstacles, we are more willing, and I just got chills everywhere, to persevere through them and not in a way that makes us feel defeated, depleted, or depressed. All right, on to our Cancers. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, here we go. Agreed, Lucy Rose. We can see how we complement each other rather than how we annoy each other. I have to tell you, there's certain, being of a certain age now, I think most of you know I'm in my 60s. I'll be 62 in a month. And, that used to be the customer was king and, customer service was so important. They used to have these commercials where the guys would run out of the gas station and pump your gas and clean your windows and put air in your tires. And now you can't even get a guy to go from one side of this little booth to another to let you pay for your gas, let alone pump it. So my point is this. I've had this tendency of watching this erosion of people being in a customer service environment, of people really wanting to and make other people have a good experience in hospitality and this and that. My focus of that is creating more of that. And I feel like part of my job as an individual on this planet is to keep paying attention to my focus. Because as I continue to focus on the imbalance, I am participating in the imbalance. And I want to be a perpetrator of balance. And on the days I can't really be a perpetrator of balance, I try to stay away from everybody else and not poison them with my bad attitude. All right, here we go. Cancer, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. First angel is Caressa. The second is Rosetta again. The third is Mystique. And the final is Serafina. Thank you, Rose. Exactly, Lucy Rose. Customer service, my arse. Drives me crazy. I had my carpets cleaned recently, which I can't even begin to tell you was just the most beautiful thing in the world. But this was a company, I have to tell you, I was like so elated by the customer service from the beginning to the end, to the way they answered the phone. It was like a throwback to something else. And I don't usually write reviews on Yelp, but I went after a month because I wanted to make sure the carpet looked good a month later. So nice. All right, Caressa, for my Cancers, is being joined by the Water Fairy. Rosetta is being joined by the Trust card. Mystique is being joined by the Perception card. And Serafina is being joined by the Baird. Caressa talks about being at the end of a life cycle. That new happiness awaits you. And we have the Water Fairy. And I want to offer it this way because the Water Fairy is an intuitive sign, or intuitive energy. The moon in and of itself is an intuitive energy. It is conjunct Neptune, which is an intuitive energy. But what I want to bring up is that Cancer and the moon rule our property. It rules literally where we live, land, sea. So now is the time to start to take your intuition and to root it into where you sit, to trust it in a way that it's more of a platform of strength than it is some woo-woo emotional thing. That because Cancer sometimes can be in such a nurturing energy that it's self-deprecating. And I think this is about the opposite. It's about trusting a bigger picture of taking care of yourself on an intuitive level. Again, there are certain, all right, I'm just going to come out and say it. Last night when I was watching TV, there was this commercial of this guy in a hospital on a breathing apparatus, and he's basically dying. And it says that certain things, certain shots save lives. The very next commercial was a commercial for an antidepressant that told me one of the side effects was that I was going to want to kill myself. I went a little kooky because I feel like I'm just getting such contrary information. This is where I'm going for Cancer. You got to dig deep. Because part of you is going to want to listen to the outside. Part of you is going to want to listen to the inside. And this full moon with Neptune traversing across it is going to reveal things that have been hidden, things that are not so. And you need to, if you feel like that's building underneath, then wait. Because you need to trust your inner child's voice. I really want to say this. Because I feel like this is a little bit about moving out of the crab crawl. You know, the crab kind of only goes like this. It can make headway, but boys, it makes it much more difficult. And I feel like this is your opportunity and or your obstacle, because Mystique is saying to keep charging ahead and expect miraculous solutions as you trust your own perceptions, your own inner knowing. And the inner knowing isn't something that's going to be like validated. I mean, it could be validated right away, but sometimes it takes a minute, because I think that this is about rewriting your history. I think this is about it feeling more secure in your own emotional body, which makes everybody feel more trusting around you. I feel like there is this, one of the Saturn Uranus square elements that is the theme of this year is sort of deciphering between the old herd mentality kind of, where I almost want to like go to Roswell, like where they feed you just enough information to make sure that the herd doesn't go crazy. And we got to trust a deeper knowing. That's just kind of what I'm talking about. And the deeper knowing is that some things that are being touted as remedies and cures and other things are not necessarily, we got to give it a minute. Just got to give it a minute. Yes, double dash. I never know what to call you, but yes, that's that commercial is the oxygen mask in the hospital on the table, the whole thing. Oh, all right. Let's go into our Geminis. Excuse me. I didn't get my tea. I don't have my tea. I feel a little naked without my tea here. Not Lucy Rose. I want to offer this because I had a client say, was working on her inner child. And I said to her, your inner child just wants to play and have fun. The adult wants to make sense of what the inner child experienced. So on some level, when you start to look at, if you want to truly balance your inner child or heal your inner child, what kind of fun does your inner child want? Does your inner child want to take Sunday off and play games all day and have fun and not do the laundry? Maybe. That's where we'll find the true balancing and healing. All right, here we go. On to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Get this show on the road. Our first angel for our Geminis is Vanessa. The second is Desiree. The third is Bridget. And the final is Opal. Pluto squaring Mercury. That's what I'm going to say this week. There's a lot of, potential of this rebirth of your, I almost feel like there's this, for Gemini, that there could be information that comes up that makes it so obvious of something that maybe you're pretending not to know, or you didn't want to know, or you kept hoping would shift. And I feel like now, in order for you to truly feel some balance in there, we might have to go in a new direction. The horse is joining Vanessa. The disruption card is joining Desiree. The restriction card is joining Bridget, and Opal's being joined by the Lady of the Lake. For Gemini, something is coming up for you. A piece of information will be revealed. The culmination. Okay, so this Pisces moon, it not only involves spirits, it involves spirits. So if for some reason, because COVID made me want to stop drinking, because I felt like there was something about drinking at the time that felt like wasn't like I was drinking that much, but the way my body was metabolizing alcohol was not so great. It was feeling a little bit counterintuitive to how I wanted to feel. Because when I look at Vanessa and the horse, I feel like there's something going on with Gemini, that your mind is about to be a little blown about something. And I feel like on an intuitive level, you've known it all along, and now it might be in your face, and it's time to take action. At first, emotionally. Okay, again, we're talking about a full moon, the culmination of a cycle. And I feel a little bit like, because when I go into the opportunity, the obstacle, just Desiree is saying conditions aren't favorable, and there's disruption. So something is coming up that it feels a bit like a blind side, I'll say it. But then again, at the same time, I feel like if I was really paying attention, I kind of would see it coming up on me, because I need to look deeper. This is the angel's advice into what this disruption is about. And it may be putting you what feels like on hold, or you may find, that your job has changed somewhat, or that your job might feel like it's changing. And you may be a little nervous about how that looks. And at the same time, I think it's a little bit about sometimes change actually brings us closer to what we want. So let me give you a little bit of an example. before Teri worked for herself, Teri worked for a variety of other people. And the last job I had, I could not have been more miserable. Every day I was like, I can't stand this job. I hate this job. I don't want to work this job anymore. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it was through a disruption. Somebody actually pissed me off so much that I went and quit my job. And I won't tell people, please don't listen to me. Don't run out and quit your job. But what I will say is that I have enough Aries rising in me that was pissed off and said, I'm going to cut through this bull and start to own me. Own me for who and what I am and what the deeper part of me is. Because with Opal in the final position and the Lady of the Lake, it's time for Gemini to go to that deeper truth. And let me offer it this way. Because if indeed you've wanted to start a family or get in a good relationship, don't be going halvesy, loosey-goosey with it. Be more like, hey, this is what I want. I haven't experienced it yet. Now I'm going to fall down on the side of it in a really strong way. Let Pluto transform your thought process into not going back and forth anymore, but just falling damn down onto it where, I don't know what that is, but you're out of here, boo. I got to get rid of you. I don't do that. Cripe. I need some help. I got to dumb down some porno dude. Pluto coming in. This guy's going to freaking, if I remove him once, do I remove him all the way? Let's see. There we go. All right. I think I've done it. Okay. All right. So, Gemini, I'm sorry for that. We had a little porno stuff come up. Funny. Pluto squaring Mercury. All right. Okay. Thank you, CJD. Okay. So overall, this is what I want to say. I think Vanessa is asking Gemini to actually start to, if at least in your own mind's eye, start to really kind of put this duplicity, can I, can't I, away and start to just sort of focus in on, this is what I want. Whether I like it or not, this is what I want. And there's going to be a bit of a disruption. And I think that could be Neptune revealing some hidden information that feels a little spooky or a little creepy or a little deceptive, deceitful. And at the same time, I don't want to focus on that dynamic. I want to focus in on, you know what, my deeper truth is I want this. And I'm going to start to cut through the BS and move my way towards it. All right. That's where I'm going with that. Let's go on to our Tauruses. Brandon, I missed your original comment because of our little porno person who popped in, but I want to offer whatever you're saying about, feeling Neptune's spirits over spirits is ask yourself if, and anybody who's feeling this way, because I enjoy my wine. I still to this day enjoy wine tastings and wine. But what I realized is the vibration I was perpetrating at this point when I was drinking, it felt too heavy. So I wanted to take the heaviness off. And once the heaviness comes off, then I can go in and enjoy something with a different vibration. All right, Taurus. Here we go. Sorry. Brendan, is it your birthday today? 9/19/20. Oh, maybe it's what time it is right now. Never mind. Okay. What was your birthday? All right, here we go. Today's Lucky's 9.5-month birthday. He's 9. And today's, I'm in my apartment 18 years today. My anniversary here. When I moved in here, I was very poor. And I mean poor spiritually because I've been through so much. All right, here we go. Taurus. My fellow Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Shanti. We have Astera. We have Shanti. We have Layla. And we have Caressa. Astera is being joined by the focus card. Shanti is being joined by the frog. Layla is being joined by the restriction card. And Caressa is being joined by the burden. Okay, so being a fixed sign moon, Taurus moon myself, And being an intuitive, being right is hard on me and hard on many people who are around me, because when I believe something, I won't shake from it. And I want to offer it this way, because I think what this illumination is with this full moon is offering Taurus an opportunity to truly see where their focus is. And, Taurus represents security. And the flip side of that is insecurity. It represents our money. It represents our self-worth, because Venus rules it. That's why I say all that. Because I think that there's an opportunity in this moon to really clear the waters of what you feel, where you get your mojo from. Where do you get your self-worth from? And I feel a little bit like it's a little bit about being willing to do an inventory of your growth. Here I go. Aster says, reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and don't compromise. And there's the focus. And sometimes when we are, as a Taurus moon, I can be so focused on my nonsense old story. I can find that old story riddled, up and down my current pathways that I walk, literally, physically, and spiritually. And I feel like if I'm going to have any peace at all, there is a part of me that has to say it is what it is. And as it being what it is, am I going to face it? Am I going to continue to focus on it, or am I going to focus on what I want? So this is where I'm going with this. My DNA family has some very large, happy milestones. Most people are like celebratory milestones, birthdays, weddings, babies, etc. In my personal DNA, we don't match. It's more like oil and vinegar. So I could be really focused in on, all these things are going to happen and I'm not going to be part of it. Or I could focus in on the idea that I want peace in my life. And if I try to push a square peg into a round hole, I'm going to feel miserable all the time, because I'm reaching for the stars with my dreams and my desires, and I am focusing. And when I do that, I actually feel a sense of peace. I feel a sense of my mind feeling clean. And I know that when I feel the most restricted is when I am not in connection with my deeper truth. Layla talks about my intentions. And so when I look at my intention for that, it's not just for me not to be involved in energies that don't connect with me, but it's also, why be disruptive to the other side? They're not going to feel any more comfortable than I do in that space. So if I say no to it, am I actually helping the other side as well? Because I'm at the end of a life cycle. And yes, there is a sense of burden. I have Pluto squaring my sun, squaring my ascendant, and soon to be squaring my Mars. So I am at the end of an illusion. And there's a certain amount of burden. But as long as I continue to remain focused on my deeper truth, I understand what that burden has to offer me. And in some ways, as I stand individualized Uranus from squaring Saturn, from the old structure, then I come back to you as a teacher and say, it's okay for you too, as well. Because why go into this all the time just because there's DNA involved? It doesn't make any sense. So Taurus, allow Uranus to liberate you. As Uranus has been traversing my moon, and it went, I'm a 9 degrees, so it's going back and forth and back and forth. And I think I'm kind of over the heaviness of it. It was deeper and deeper levels of what was true to me versus what I had learned habitually. Habitually, I learned that you're supposed to love your siblings. Habitually, I learned that you're supposed to honor your parents. Habitually, I learned that I'm supposed to do this and I'm supposed to do that. And none of that was feeding me. My parents, really don't deserve their position because they've never acted in it. My father's gone now, so my Taurus moon could bitch and complain and cry about it forever and a day, or I could say it is what it is and then move on. And when I say move on, I mean focus in on what I want and use all that tenacious Taurus energy to start to truly create what I want. So allowing this full moon, the idea that the new moon in Pisces was right at the beginning of spring. And I've had 6 months to really examine my emotional body, being a Taurus moon, and was it serving me? And now, as I come to this full moon in Pisces, I can allow the illusion of what. There's this song in Defying Gravity that says, if this is love, at what cost? It says something like, if this is love, it comes at much too high cost. It's time to try defying gravity. That's how I live my life. So I hope that made sense. If you guys know that song, I think you know what I'm talking about. Allow this to work for you instead of feeling like it's pulling you under. Okay, let's go on to our final sign, Aries, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. Agreed. I don't want to go into fruitless endeavors anymore. And more than that, I don't want to continue to perpetrate old energies that don't reflect who I am now. So when I go into my DNA world, I unconsciously start drinking the wine because I'm so acutely aware of the imbalance. It's like I'm a huge empath and I feel all the judgment, criticism, indecision. These people are God-fearing people. Okay, they are like, John 3:16. And while I believe much of that and the value of it, I'm not. Anyway, I don't know what I'm trying to say now. Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay. All right, here we go. Aries. Our first angel is Xana, the angel of protection. The second is Shanti, the angel of peace. The third is Mystique. And the final is Layla. I'd be so curious to know. I've never done it, but I would love to look at our forefathers and look at their individual charts if we could figure it out. Wonder how much warrior energy we would see there. Aries, while it's the warrior, it's also the courage. It's also the bravery to do something independent and different and to be a lone soldier. And so during these times, I think it's not about Aries pulling out their sword as much as being so aware of their dynamic and knowing when that you will be effective in your assertion versus aggression, and when you will just be venting. Because that's where I think you're being protected. So we have Xana being joined by the bee, which is my being energy, my belief, my disposition, my attitude when I walk into a situation. Shanti, the angel of peace, is being joined by the eagle, the connection to the angelic realm. Mystique is being joined by the forgiveness card. And then we have Merlin joining Layla. So this is what I want to say for my Aries. I am so 100% convinced that my being energy is the literal platform with which my feet walk on every single day. I used to go to this restaurant all the time, and the first couple of times I went there, I had a bad experience, and then I saw myself starting to expect a bad experience. And in that expectation, my being energy was aligned to that expectation. So my point is, Aries, you're being protected as you are starting to be aware of your being energy and starting to ask yourself questions like, is my being energy serving my deeper truth? Because when we are in an energy of pointing out somebody else's deficiencies, their inadequacies, we're not really engaging them in our vision. We're just putting them in a defensive mode. And I think that's where Aries gets caught up, because sometimes they're right about certain situations, but the dynamic with which they go about it is so assertive and appears aggressive and hostile. Because I think Spirit is asking you to be a fosterer of peace, to fly above the situation and to realize that you're talking to another human being and to sort of act the way that you would respond if somebody was coming at you with information you may not find favorable. For instance, information about yourself. Because I want to offer this. Again, we've got a moon. This is going to be emotional. these next few days are going to be very emotional, and we may have already been feeling it. And in order for Aries to truly feel the power that they own, that amazing courage that they have, this is about stopping for a minute and saying, how can I be the agent for peace? How can I rise above a situation and stand in integrity? Because it is through that I believe that Aries will start to rewrite their own story. This is a keep charging ahead. Expect miraculous solutions. And that miraculous solutions come from your ability to see a wisdom in disruption. Because if I never saw myself as, sometimes, I've known the truth so much, and then I get too forceful about it, and I actually push people away. Now, this is when I was younger. I was less self-actualized. So sometimes I've started to realize that now I can say the same truth, but my energy is a little bit different, and it's responded to different, which makes me start to feel more aligned to the wisdom of my Aries energy. Because my intention as an Aries rising is to help create balance, to create alchemy from something that appears to not have value, to see the value of it. So my point is this: Aries, your sense of justice may get very riled up as information is revealed of imbalance. We've been seeing that for years now. First, we saw it in the way that certain races are being treated by other races, in the way certain genders are being treated. We're seeing this coming in layers. So rather than being assaulted by it or incensed by it, asking yourself, how can I be an agent of peace? And how can I purport a more spiritual dynamic versus a spirit dynamic? How can I allow this situation to transform my way of being into a place where I'm still authentic to myself, and yet not pushing up against the herd and asking the herd to acknowledge me? I'm just going to kind of finish it this way. I believe that if you're drawn to this type of material, you are a leader of some kind. You have chosen it either in your community, for yourself, for your family, for whoever those are that you touch in the world. So the more aware you are of that ripple effect, and you can stand in your truth, not in a way that is like, but rather you can take my truth and honor it, or you don't have to. It's not going to affect me. I'm going to honor my truth. This is where I think Neptune will rise to its highest degree, no pun intended, and where the square between Mercury and Pluto will help make sense. And I find it so interesting that I'm on this Libra, Leo, Aries axis. Even my nodal structure is on this axis. And when Brian and I were looking at my past life, he wanted to talk about a marriage and a resentful marriage. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's it. I think I've been a spiritual warrior, and maybe even a mercenary or in militia, where I had no patience for other people. And now my job is to be diplomatic and enroll them into my idea versus browbeating them with it. So that's where I'm going. This is going to be very pivotal times, guys. I can't promise nirvana just yet, but I can promise nirvana here and here if we're willing to see how our own perceptions foster or actually deplete our bigger intention. And that intention is to thrive, to feel freedoms, to feel enjoyment of spending our money. I was at a store the other day or a restaurant, and the guy came and handed the little waitress her paycheck. And I'm like, oh, you got paid? She goes, no, my bills got paid. And so now we want to start to think of that in a more fun way. All right. That's it. I want to ask any of you who happen to note your timestamp, if you could help us. Juan is still on his me time staycation, and we're going to let him figure that out. I myself will not be able to get to the timestamps maybe until tomorrow. So I'd appreciate your help there. Small Wildflowers, I want to thank you for always being so diligent and dependable. And I love you so much. I love my whole tribe. Thank you so much. It's me, Teri Hunter. I wish you peace. Out for this week. I'll see you next week, everybody.